Okay, everybody. Hi, welcome to the guest lecture. So this is Lana Ravel. She's a Brazilian artist based in Berlin. I'm not going to talk any more than that. I'll let her do it. So let's welcome her. Thanks.
Thank you. Well, thanks for the invitation to come here. And as you probably know already, the lecture is going to be about open design. And this is a concept that is based on the open source that comes from the software field. And here we have some examples of open source projects that you probably recognize all these logos and probably use them almost maybe every day, many times a day, I don't know. So the idea from open source is that the source code is released to the community that can use it, can make changes, can release new versions, and it can kind of grow from there and be built together collectively. And it's also free of charge. And open design is that same idea, but applied to design in different areas of product design or architecture, engineering, graphic design, all kinds of things designed by either professional designers, but also by amateur designers that are part of the open design community. So to talk a little bit about how open design is present in our daily lives, this is Sam. He's a filmmaker from New Zealand. He lives in Berlin. And he decided to spend a whole year trying to use only open design products. That was like a challenge he gave to himself, and he's going to talk in a little video about it.
Hi, my name is Sam Muirhead, and you don't know me yet. But from the 1st of August, no more secrets. I am going open source for a whole year. The problem is, I can't code, I can't solve it. I'm a Mac user. I love technology, but like most people, I've never played an active role in its development. I'm a filmmaker, and for the next year, I'm going to be documenting my transformation as I attempt to change every aspect of my life to open source. Those who have heard the name open source probably associate it with software, like Linux, Firefox, and the Apache web server. And this is where it all started, over 2 decades ago. But software is really just the beginning. Open source is a philosophy that encourages openness, sharing, and modification. Rather than licensing a product with copyright, open source is kind of a copyleft. This means that anyone is free to change or alter the product, with the only restriction being that if you change anything, any modified versions must also be released under the same open license. And now the idea has spread from software to open source hardware. These are physical objects or tools that anyone can study, modify, or make themselves if they want to. The source code, that is the plans or files that show somebody how to make the product, can be downloaded by anyone. Some people see open source as a way to contribute to a wide variety of projects, gaining support and recognition for their work. Some see a money-making opportunity.
As an innovative brand leader, I see open source as a savvy business model going forward.
I see it as a beautiful way of life that encourages sharing, transparency, and goodwill for all humanity.
For others, it's political.
Open source will smash capitalism.
Some see it as a great way to learn how everyday products are made. Some just see it as a way to get stuff for free.
How much to pay? I choose to pay 0. Chumps.
And me? Well, I don't quite know yet. But I'm excited about exploring these different sides of open source with humor, clarity, and critical thinking as I untangle myself from the world of consumerism and go from an open source outsider to total DIYer and Linux nerd. But I'm not going to get there alone. And nobody wants to watch videos of me alone on my couch all year. The projects I undertake will be collaborative projects. They'll spread the gospel of open source, get people involved in DIY, and benefit the community.
I live in Berlin, a city not only central in Europe, but also central to the open source movement.
Within a few blocks of my apartment, there are maker labs, textile workshops, urban farms, and the ultimate hacker club. There's even an open source political party. So how do I plan to live open source?
How's the jacket?
Do you have it in open source? If I want a new pair of jeans, I can no longer just go to the mall and buy some. I have to find companies selling open source clothing, if they exist. Or I can hunt down open source patterns and make them myself. Or I can just spend a year rocking a toga. But open source making isn't just DIY. I'm always going to be looking for ways to use technology to automate or improve production, to make projects replicable by others. Can I 3D print jeans? Can robots cook me breakfast? Oh, thank you very much. Sometimes I won't be able to find anything. In that case, I'll try to develop my own project. I'll release the plans, diagrams, or code for others to use. If I can't do that, I'll choose the solution which comes closest to open source ideals, the shariest option. I'll try to work out why there is no open source model, and just what's stopping it being developed. I'll be testing just how far the open source idea can go in real life, and of course, asking the big philosophical questions. For this project to work properly, I need to be open too. All my costs and plans will be on the website for all to see, and my video is free to download. Hell, Google already knows everything about me. Why shouldn't you? It'll be fun, but there'll be plenty of challenges. And I must say I'm not looking forward to open source toilet paper.
Okay, so you must be delighted to know that toilet paper patent actually has expired a while ago, so it's in the public domain. So he didn't have to go for some strange toilet paper open source thing. But he did make, for example, his own toothpaste. And during this whole year that he documented this challenge, for example, this video shows that you can make your own toothpaste with very basic and very cheap ingredients at the same amount of time that it takes you to brush your teeth once. And it's very minty, fresh, nice. I tried the recipe, it's pretty good. Another project that he put himself to was to design open source underwear. Because apparently normal underwear didn't fit his body shape so well. He thought it was a product that really could benefit from an open source mentality. So he did it by creating this whole adaptable patterns based on your waist measurement. And then that was one of his projects, the open source undies, released with an open source license. And coming then to more lofty ideas and projects, there's one that I like very much. It's called the Wiki House. And it's the idea to design this modular house that anybody can just hit a button and print, and then build together. And also the creator of this Wiki House project is also very articulate speaker about open source concepts. So I'm going to show a second video, a little bit longer, but I think it's very well worth seeing it. I don't know if some of you might have seen it. It's from the TED Talks that I know are very popular. Lots of people watch all of them. And I like it very much. His name is Alistair Purvin, and he's going to talk a little bit about architecture and a more conceptual and encompassing in society vision of open design. Let's see.
When we use the word architect or designer, what we usually mean is a professional, someone who gets paid. And we tend to assume that it's those professionals who are going to be the ones to help us solve the really big systemic design challenges that we face, like climate change, urbanization, social inequality. That's our kind of working presumption. And I think it's wrong, actually. In 2008, I was just about to graduate from architecture school after several years and go out and get a job, and this happened. The economy ran out of jobs. And a couple of things struck me about this. One, don't listen to career advisors. And two, actually, this is a fascinating paradox for architecture, which is that as a society, we've never needed design thinking more, and yet architecture was literally becoming unemployed. It strikes me that we talk very deeply about design, but actually there's an economics behind architecture that we don't talk about, and I think we need to. And a good place to start is your own paycheck. So as a bottom of the wrong architecture graduate, I might expect to earn about £24,000. It's about $36,000, $37,000. Now, in terms of the whole world's population, that already puts me in the top 1.95 richest people, which raises the question of who is it I'm working for? The uncomfortable fact is that actually almost everything that we call architecture today is actually the business of designing for about the richest 1% of the world's population. And it always has been. The reason why we forgot that is because the times in history when architecture did the most to transform society were those times when actually the 1% would build on behalf of the 99% for various different reasons, whether that was through philanthropy in the 19th century, communism in the early 20th, the welfare state, and most recently, of course, through this inflated real estate bubble. And all of those booms, in their own various ways, have now kicked the bucket. And we're back in this situation where the smartest designers and architects in the world are only really able to work for 1% of the population. Now, it's not just that that's bad for democracy, though I think it probably is. It's actually not a very clever business strategy, actually. I think the challenge facing the next generation of architects is how are we going to turn our client from the 1% to the 100%? And I want to offer three slightly counterintuitive ideas for how it might be done. The first is, I think we need to question this idea that architecture is about making buildings. Actually, a building is about the most expensive solution you can think of to almost any given problem. And fundamentally, design should be much, much more interested in solving problems and creating new conditions. So here's a story. The office were working with a school, and they had an old Victorian school building. And they said to the architects, look, our corridors are an absolute nightmare. They're far too small. They get congested between classes. There's bullying. We can't control them. So what we want you to do is replan our entire building. And we know it's going to cost several £1 million, but we're reconciled to the fact. And the team thought about this, and they went away, and they said, actually, don't do that. Instead, get rid of the school bell. And instead of having one school bell that goes off once, have several smaller school bells that go off in different places in different times, distribute the traffic through the corridors. It solves the same problem, but instead of spending several £1 million, you spend several £100. Now, it looks like you're doing yourself out of a job, but you're not. You're actually making yourself more useful. Architects are actually really, really good at this kind of resourceful strategic thinking. And the problem is that, like a lot of design professions, we got fixated on the idea of providing a particular kind of consumer product. And I don't think that needs to be the case anymore. A second idea worth questioning is this 20th century thing that mass architecture is about big buildings and big finance. Actually, we've got ourselves locked into this industrial era mindset, which says that the only people who can make cities are large organizations or corporations who build on our behalf, procuring whole neighborhoods in single monolithic projects. And of course, form follows finance. So what you end up with are single monolithic neighborhoods based on this kind of one-size-fits-all kind of model. And a lot of people can't even afford them. But what if actually it's possible now for cities to be made not just by the few with a lot, but also by the many with a bit? And when they do, they bring with them a completely different set of values about the place that they want to live. And it raises really interesting questions about how will we plan cities? How will we finance development? How will we sell design services? What would it mean for democratic societies to offer their citizens a right to build? And in a way, it should be kind of obvious, right? That in the 21st century, maybe cities could be developed by citizens. And thirdly, we need to remember that from a strictly economic point of view, design shares a category with sex and care of the elderly. Mostly it's done by amateurs. And that's a good thing. Most of the work takes place outside of the monetary economy in what's called the social economy or the core economy, which is people doing it for themselves. And The problem is that up until now, it was the monetary economy which had all the infrastructure and all the tools. So the challenge we face is how are we going to build the tools, the infrastructure, and the institutions for architecture's social economy? And that began with open source software. And over the last few years, it's been moving into the physical world with open source hardware, which are freely shared blueprints that anyone can download and make for themselves. And that's where 3D printing gets really, really interesting, right? When suddenly you had a 3D printer that was open source, the parts for which could be made on another 3D printer. Or the same idea here, which is for a CNC machine, which is like a large printer that can cut sheets of plywood. What these technologies are doing is radically lowering the thresholds of time and cost and skill. They're challenging the idea that if you want something to be affordable, it's got to be one size fits all. And they're distributing massively really complex manufacturing capabilities. We're moving into this future where the factory is everywhere. And increasingly, that means that the design team is everyone. That really is an industrial revolution. When we think that, the major ideological conflicts that we inherited were all based around this question of who should control the means of production. And these technologies are coming back with the solution, actually, maybe no one. All of us. And we were fascinated by what that might mean for architecture. So about a year and a half ago, we started working on a project called WikiHouse. And WikiHouse is an open source construction system. And the idea is to make it possible for anyone to go online, access a freely shared library of 3D models, which they can download and adapt in, at the moment, SketchUp, because it's free and it's easy to use. And almost at the click of a switch, they can generate a set of cutting files, which allow them, in effect, to print out the parts from a house using a CNC machine and a standard sheet material like plywood. And the parts are all numbered, and basically what you end up with is a really big IKEA kit. And it goes together without any bolts. It uses wedge and peg connections, and even the mallets to make it can be provided on the cutting sheets as well. And a team of about 2 or 3 people working together can build this. They don't need any traditional construction skills. They don't need a huge array of power tools or anything like that. And they can build a small house of about this size in about a day. And And what you end up with is just the basic chassis of a house, onto which you can then apply systems like windows and cladding and insulation and services based on what's cheap and what's available. Of course, the house is never finished. We're shifting our heads here, so the house is not a finished product. With the CNC machine, you can make new parts for it over its life, or even use it to make the house next door. So we can begin to see the seed of a completely open source, citizen-led urban development model, potentially. And we and others have built a few prototypes around the world now, and some really interesting lessons here. One of them is that it's always incredibly sociable. People get confused between construction work and having fun. But the principles of openness go right down into the really mundane physical details, like never designing a piece that can't be lifted up. Or when you're designing a piece, make sure you either can't put it in the wrong way around, or if you do, it doesn't matter because it's symmetrical. Probably the principle which runs deepest with us is the principle set out by Linus Torvalds, the open source pioneer, which was that idea of be lazy like a fox. Don't reinvent the wheel every time. Take what already works and adapt it for your own needs. Contrary to almost everything that you might get taught at an architecture school, copying is good, which is appropriate. Because actually, this approach is not innovative. It's actually how we've built buildings for hundreds of years before the Industrial Revolution in these sorts of community barn raisings. The only difference between traditional vernacular architecture and open source architecture might be a web connection. But it's a really, really big difference. We shared the whole of WikiHouse under a Creative Commons license, and now what's just beginning to happen is that groups around the world are beginning to take it and use it and hack it and tinker with it, and it's amazing. There's a cool group over in Christchurch in New Zealand looking at post-earthquake development housing, and thanks to the TED City Prize, we're working with an awesome group in one of Rio's favelas to set up a kind of community factory and micro-university. These are very, very small beginnings, and Actually, there's more people in the last week who have got in touch and they're not even on this map. I hope next time you see it, you won't even be able to see the map. We're aware that WikiHouse is a very, very small answer. But it's a small answer to a really, really big question, which is that globally right now, the fastest growing cities are not skyscraper cities. They're self-made cities in one form or another. If we're talking about, the 21st century city, these are the guys who are going to be making it. Like it or not, welcome to the world's biggest design team. So if we're serious about problems like climate change, urbanization, and health, actually, our existing development models aren't going to do it. As I think Robert Newith said, there isn't a bank or a corporation or a government or an NGO who's going to be able to do it if we treat citizens only as consumers. How extraordinary would it be, though, if collectively we were to develop solutions not just to the problem of structure that we've been working on, but to infrastructure problems like solar-powered air conditioning, off-grid energy, off-grid sanitation, low-cost, open-source, high-performance solutions that anyone can very, very easily make, and to put them all into a commons where they're owned by everyone and they're accessible by everyone. A kind of Wikipedia for stuff. And once something's in the commons, it will always be there. How much would that change the rules? And I think the technology's on our side. If design's great project in the 20th century was the democratization of consumption, that was Henry Ford, Levittown, Coca-Cola, IKEA, I think design's great project in the 21st century is the democratization of production. And when it comes to architecture in cities, that really matters. Thank you very much.
Okay, so in both these videos, there's like a little glimpse of different open design projects that they show. You may have noticed that they kind of repeat themselves. And we're going to go into more detail in the lecture about some of those projects. And another thing that they have in common is they are released with the copyleft kind of license. So it's a legal tool that is more sophisticated than just the public domain, which is, okay, it's there and do whatever you want. But it includes clauses for example, if you do something with it, if you modify it, you have to release it as an open source as well. You cannot close it. And you can kind of mix and match these different things to create your own license, what better suits the project. And one interesting project also coming from this area of architecture and product design, and also coming from Berlin, is called the Hartz-IV-Möbel, and Hartz-IV is the welfare system in Germany. So it's kind of the idea of people that don't have much money, but they can also have nicely designed furniture. And also their motto is build more, buy less. And they release a little booklet that is also free. And one of their, this is pretty much almost all of the products. So you can kind of furnish your whole apartment with this very cheap and easy to build furniture. And this one is the chair that costs 24 euro. And it's made by this one single plank of wood. And you can download the instructions. And it comes with the cutting sizes. So when you buy this piece of wood at the Bauhaus or something like that, you can get for free, you can ask them to cut us, the way you want it for free. So you just say, cut them like that. And then there are the instructions on how to assemble it. And you have this chair for 24 euro. There's also the sofa that is convertible to a bed and different designs. Is another of their designs. And also this kind of lamp is that this first model is inspired in some beautifully designed lamps, and it's supposed to be done in 100 seconds. And for I guess you know that tomorrow we're going to have like also a hands-on workshop here from 9 to 12. And one of the projects that we're going to be working on is the lamp. So I'm going to show some of the projects that I'm going to show here are also projects that we're going to work on during the workshop tomorrow. And this is a little tool that is very, very versatile, can do many things with it. These instructions are, by the way, in Portuguese because when I gave this workshop in Brazil, part of the effort was to translate a few of those instructions into Portuguese, which is one of the things that the community also worked with. It's to provide translations for countries where people don't read so much English, for example. And this is the
I love my books. They can change the way we think, the way we live. And some declare our rights and explain who we really are. And some inspire us to discover new worlds. People need stories in which we fight dragons and find our true love. And some books have a really nice face. Books, DVDs, and CDs are the accessories of our personality. They all need space. Some are big and some are small. Sometimes my books remind me of a family that likes to invite friends for dinner. That's why often new books show up all of a sudden. But we always find a way to make them feel welcome. That's why I never get bored. And everybody needs a change from time to time. Life is full of possibilities, and it feels good to know that my family grows. I love my books, and I'm pretty sure they love me too.
So these were some ways of putting together two of those tools to make like a bookcase. And people have been building these little stools and doing different things. Here you can see them next to the chairs as like a side table or a bigger bookcase. You can have like a kind of, this looks kind of the IKEA Billy bookcase a little bit, like a very tall one for high ceilings. Or, you know, it can be like a baby chair. Or even, you know, for your business, you can have the display window, something like that. So it's a very versatile and it's also very cheap and easy to build piece of furniture. Okay, so this kind of weird thing, pink thingy, is a percussion instrument. And it was modeled and then 3D printed, and it's part of Ranjit Bhatnagar's project that he does every month of February. He designs one musical instrument every day. He's a sound artist based in New York. And some of his instruments are very simple. Some are just putting things together. Some are more complex. Some use different tools like 3D printers or laser printers and things like that. This one, which I find really nice, is one of his most complex creations. And it's the 8-bit violin. So it's just the idea of making this kind of 8-bit aesthetics, a pixelated version of a violin. And he designed it and put everything together. He said that, okay, because he had to wait at least one day just for the glue to dry. You know, it was not really one-day project, but could be, I guess. And then he tested it. He gave it to people to try to play. I think I have like a video of a performer, like a professional violinist. I don't know if any of you are a professional musician, but it's not so bad like for, you know, like something that was designed in just one day. And actually, it got to be improved because it was released also in this open source platform for 3D things called Thingiverse. And what happened is that if you find something on Thingiverse, you're free to replicate it and improve it. So after he released it there, actually a professional luthier company decided to make an improved version that was like, in their view, a bit more beautiful and also apparently sounded a bit more professional as well. So, you know, and I think maybe like 2 or 3 other versions were perfected. And this is an idea that actually we're going to be exploring in the workshop, which is to take those designs a step further. Take something that, you know, was released to the open design community and make it a little bit better, maybe more beautiful, maybe more practical, more creative, more silly, or maybe more focused on a specific use that is interesting for a group of people. So those are the things that we're going to be working on tomorrow. And one of the projects is actually one of Ranjit's instruments, and that is the Jello piano. And it's a piano that is made of Jello and fruit. And I think we have like also a performance of this. Yeah, and I think it was one of the winners of the several instrument competitions, this piano. And here's like another version with a different color. And also you can also, if you want to get your hands dirty, you can play with like this little aluminum things. Let's see. Oh, this is the fruit version. It's nice here. So we can make our own tomorrow. And also for people interested in like sound design, this is another project that is this speaker that projects sounds in all different directions. And it's basically just a frame to connect several speakers together. And it has like all the instructions and the parts also to be 3D printed. And this one, I think, was also released in Thingiverse. And it tells a little bit about what it's about, what is it used for. People can give their opinions, their comments. And if people make their own builds, they can also post. So you can see that those two actually look a little bit different than the original, because those were another versions built by other people for differently shaped and sized speakers, but that work as well. And these 4 projects are all homemade 3D scanners with very affordable and cheap solutions that people came up with all this kind of different ideas on how to scan something in 3D using readily made parts, sometimes toys. And my favorite one is made with Legos and milk. And I think I have a video of that too. Let's see. Yeah, the milk scanner. So basically, it's just a camera on top, and as you put the milk, it has a different contrast, and it, sees the outline, and it's going to be different layers of, and that's how it scans. It's not really great resolution, but it's really fun to be able to make a 3D scanner with Legos and milk. Yeah, so that's the result. There you go. I don't know if he really submerged his head into the milk thing, or it was just like scanned some other way. Okay. And he's a very interesting area right now, like is robot cameras. So now, I don't know if any of you have like experimented with drones and things like that. But you can get really interesting images, and also with very cheap kind of equipment by building your own flying robots and attaching a camera to them. And here's like a very, very small version of also a very simple camera. You can put more professional cameras too, but then you will need like a bigger kind of structure to be able to lift that kind of camera. And you can use it for just like, fun projects. This is just a dad that wants to film his kid to make sure he's safe taking the bus every day to the school, and can build like a little quadcopter like this one. And there's like many, many projects, like open source hardware projects, different kind of circuits and machines that have their plans released to whoever wants to improve on them. Here's a very, very popular, I'm sure like you've been playing with Arduino here, and the piano, the Jolly piano uses Arduino, and many other projects are using this platform. And also, there are versions for people that are not so tech savvy. So it's, for example, built on top of Arduino, you can make like a very simple controller for that even children can use. And this one is called the Makey Makey.
Hi, I'm Jay.
And I'm Eric. We're graduate students at MIT Media Lab.
We have a dream that everyone is an inventor. So we created Makey Makey to let you invent just by alligator clipping. Alligator clips stuff like bananas to your Makey Makey. When you touch the banana, your computer just thinks you're touching the keyboard. The front has arrow keys, spacebar, and mouse left click. When you're ready for more, flip the Makey Makey over and you've got more keyboard keys and support for the mouse. You can even use the board like an Arduino when you are ready. No programming, no breadboarding. You don't even have to install software. Just plug it in USB.
Order your Makey Makey today and start changing how the world works.
Boing, 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 boing,
Bum, 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 bum. Yeah, so it's not hard at all. And for the cat lovers, we're also doing a cat-related project in the workshop tomorrow, and also a bird-related for bird lovers. Oops, somehow I got. Let's see. Okay, here we go. So now coming to more also like back to more lofty goals. This is a very interesting project called Open Source Ecology. And the idea is to make open source versions of all the basic machines we use in our civilized society. So in the eventual collapse or other problems with copyrighted fancy tractors and other machines, we could possibly build them from very basic elements using kind of tools that most people can operate and kind of build civilization back from scratch. So they they identified what are the key machines and technologies and are working towards creating open source versions of every single one of them. Right now, it's not complete, the kit is not complete, but some of them have already been built and actually some are used to build others. So they started with those first. And here, I guess, is the video.
Open Source Ecology is a network of farmers, engineers, and supporters that for the last 2 years have been building the Global Village Construction Set, a set of the 40 different machines that it takes to create a small civilization with modern-day comforts. The Global Village Construction Set is like a life-size Lego set in which motors, parts, and power units can interchange. Thus far, we have prototyped 8 of the 40 machines and have published all of the 3D designs, schematics, instructional videos, and budgets on our wiki. The cost of making or buying our machines are, on average, 8 times cheaper than buying from an industrial manufacturer. The compressed earth brick press is our first product release and is the world's first high-performance open-source model. This machine allows one operator to load raw dirt right from the building site. The MicroTrack walk-behind tractor is a perfect solution for small-scale agricultural uses or where land features require a more flexible tool than a full-size tractor. The front mount allows attachments for tilling, mowing, and chipping. The LifeTrack multi-purpose tractor is the backbone of the Global Village Construction Set. The LifeTrack combines the power of a skid loader with the functionality of an agricultural or construction tractor. This year, we also completed prototypes for our drill press, self-replicating torch table, string trimmer, and soil pulverizer. As you can see, we've got a lot more to do.
Yeah. I don't know how far they are right now because this video is from a few years ago. So I think they are pretty further in their list. And another project also connected to this ecological theme is a more very smaller scale, and is the window garden or window herb garden. And it's a way for people to, without like an outdoor space, without like even a balcony, they can grow plants in their apartment. And that's also a project that we're going to be working on tomorrow. And I'm not bringing these projects just because we're doing them on the workshop. It's kind of the opposite. Like the projects that I like and I think are cool, I chose them so we can have some hands-on experience with them at the workshop. And lots of people have been dedicating themselves to planting their own food, growing their own food. And the window garden solution is really easy. You just need like kind of stack the containers and you must have a way for the water to go all the way up, like some pump or some other kind of device, and then it will drip down and it will continually provide water and nutrients for the plants. And I guess the window will provide light. If you don't have enough light, you can add light. And if your window is really horrible, you can add some light. Or maybe your apartment doesn't face the best direction, you can add that too. It's a modular system. And this is the very basic version. We've just like used the empty bottles. But there are also more commercially available better design versions. And our plan is kind of to make something that is not so expensive as this one that you can buy, but it can make more beautiful just the basic, it's just not some bottles hanging from your window. It could be something nicer. And here I have like to finish, I just gonna list like some websites that are platforms where people can publish the results, like and make them available to whoever wants to make their own versions. And it's nice because they kind of aggregate all these projects. And we are also the idea in the workshop is to publish what we're going to do in some of these platforms, and then we're going to choose which is more appropriate. So it's going to be released. It's going to be a contribution for the open design community. And Thingiverse is a lot about 3D things, and you can find from the crazy instruments I showed to this one is like Crocs repair. If you buy like a shitty Croc and it will break, and you can print a little piece, so you can use it for longer. But there are also very interesting ideas, like this is a high-end baby stroller, and it kind of clicks and morphs into all these positions. It's super expensive, and at the core of this multifunction kind of hub, there are those two metal pieces that they undergo a lot of stress, and apparently they break easily. And this guy was just a dad, but he also was a 3D designer. So when his stroller broke, he tried to get the original parts, but they were really expensive. And also, like, because he lived in a small city, he would have to send the stroller and wait, like, 3 months, or his baby would be outgrow the stroller by then, I guess. So he said, I'm just doing this myself. So he scanned the pieces, and then he just printed them in metal, of course, not in plastic. And they were great. And I guess the original parts cost, $400, and the 3D printed costed like 20, something like that. And then he, of course, made them available for other people, like, because he had the 3D skills to make very nice models of the original pieces. So now it's available, and people can just order and repair their strollers if they want to. And Instructables, that's the platform he used, and it's another platform that includes all kind of things, not just the 3D things, but plans for, here we have like technology, living, play, food, things like that. So it's more like broad. This one is called Make Projects, and also has interesting projects that you can browse and choose what to do with them. And this one actually is not so much an open design platform, but is a place for people who are interested in do-it-yourself It's just for handmade and crafts products. It's actually a marketplace. So if you are into kind of do-it-yourself and crafts, you can sell your products to the world. And they're really, I don't know if you guys have bought anything from Etsy, but they're really big, and they offer lots of nice tools for people who want to get into this marketplace. And here's some numbers. So they've really been growing a lot. So I think it's a market that's been growing a lot also if you want to create your own products based on open design versions, and you can also sell them in this platform, for example. I guess that was the last slide. So this is my contact if you're interested, and now I guess we open for questions.